This is another best every year. Like in 2016, the AQR score got better. The top two airlines, still the same, Alaska and Delta, got even closer together. It's a virtual tie this year for the number one, Alaska, just a little bit ahead. And when you look at the other 9 airlines out of the 12 that we rated, the other 9 didn't really change much. We moved up one notch, a couple moved down, but it was virtually the same from number 3 on down. The tightening of the pack of the 12 airlines is much more pronounced. The scale runs for about 2 points, if you would, and it tightened up by over half a point. So we're looking at a fairly good coming together of the airlines. Interestingly enough, what kind of fostered that is many of the airlines got better, but the number 1 and number 2 got worse. So they all kind of came together with each other. Involuntary denied boardings was the rate per 10,000 passengers was the best we've had since we started this rating in 1991. It actually dropped by almost 50% from 2016. Given the events of last spring, probably needed to. On-time performance slipped slightly, if you would. It's right at 80%. But it dropped a little over a percentage point for this year as the industry goes. But if you really look at it, it's since about 2008, 2009, it's hovered around 80% on time for the industry. So altogether, not all that bad a performance. Mishandled bags were again best ever since 1991. They finally got their act together enough to get the baggage handling down to around 2.5 bags per 1,000 passengers mishandled, which sounds like a lot if it's your bag, but frankly, it's not all that much in the overall scheme of things. We can kind of trace the improvement in mishandled baggage performance to when, within about a year or so after they started charging for bags, because 2 things happened. Number 1, people expected more of the airlines and they frankly got a little bit better. But mostly, people started carrying their bags on. So there wasn't as much volume, so there wasn't as much risk for a mishandled bag. Customer complaints moved a little bit, got a little bit better, nothing dramatic. The nice part about it was that while the rate improved, the volume also decreased. So they're complaining about whatever they're complaining about at a smaller volume. Customer complaints are really kind of an ongoing concern if you really get right down to it. While the complaint volume is less and the rate per 100,000 passengers is less, what we end up with is exactly the same categories year after year after year. Flight problems is the biggest one. Then you throw in kind of equal proportions, customer service, really lost bags, and a thing called reservations, ticket and boarding as a category. But the flight problems make up almost half of the customer complaints, and that never changes. While they complain, the airlines don't seem to be able to change what they're complaining about. It is somewhat of an isolated occurrence, and one airline does have a lot bigger problems than most. There were just about 507,000 animals transported by airlines in major carriers in this country, and only about 4 of them had any type of incidents, as they're called. And of those 4, there were 40 incidents where an animal either died or was injured or was lost. Of those 40 incidents, 31 of them were on United Airline. So when I said both, I really meant it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, United seems to carry the major burden for it happening. Well, there is room for improvement. Obviously, they did. They got better at denied boardings. They got better at mishandled bags. Customer complaints improved. They got a little worse on time. But generally speaking, they can improve when they want to. But it really takes a focus, an incident, if you would, for them to want to focus on it. And denied boardings was it for last year. And evidently bags somehow got a little benefit out of that as well. It's hard to notice whether an airline takes a proactive approach or waits until something goes wrong. I think they all want to have good customer service. They all want to do right, but some of them just seem to be more ahead of the power curve and the thinking about strategically how to make that happen. Of the 4 things that we look at, on time and denied boardings and baggage handling and customer complaints are a result of what happens. The other 3, they should have some impact on. A little harder sometimes on timeness because there's a lot of air traffic control and weather and a variety of things that impact on that. But still 80% is pretty good. It's really pretty good for the system. When you look at denied boardings and baggage handling, those are 2 areas that they should have maximum control over. And this year, denied boardings got better and baggage got better. Every airline's bought another airline, it seems like. So when we look at mergers, they were doing that for economies of scale. You can't really, in these economic times, start a new airline very effectively. It's much easier to acquire. So United and Continental, and then you had American and all of its various entities that got a hold of TWA and all the others that went with it. US Air went with all the airlines that they bought, and Delta acquired. So the latest one, that Alaska and Virgin America were primarily a West Coast. They're trying to be a Continental, but it primarily started as West Coast. That is a logical, reasonable merger that's pretty much a done deal. They have their operating certificates now together. I don't know that there's any more that are small enough that the other bigger ones want to take a bite of.